There is power in the name. There is power in the name of Jesus. There is power in the name of Jesus. Break every chain, break every chain, break every chain.
Just want to wish those of you a very pleasant good afternoon on this beautiful and this wonderful Sunday afternoon. Truly, there is power in Christ, the person, to break every chain. What chains you face with today? The power and the victory still is in Jesus Christ. Not your church, nor my church, not your denomination, nor my denomination, but the power to break those chains is found in the man called Jesus Christ. Welcome you here today on Transforming Lives on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. Call-in numbers 326-0271, 326-0272, or you can WhatsApp us at 433-6917, 433-6917. As usual, we have a inspirational, motivational, transformational program again today. But for those of you tuning in, especially by the radio or Cable TV 974, special blessings to you because you take the time to listen to us. And as you know, we never begin this program without a segment that we call the most important part of a program such as this. We call it Moments with Christ. Because on a program like this, myself, my co-host Jackie Gardner, we acknowledge that outside of Christ, we are nothing. Without him, we can do nothing. And we always believe that we ought to put things first. The person who always leads us in that is Dr. L.V. McMillan. My co-host may be slow coming on, so Professor Major, I can officially anoint you as my co-host. I have some questions. If you have some, you can ask our guests. So Professor Major, you know you'll be my official co-host today. And that's Dr. McMillan. Dr. Mac, how are you doing, son? So,
good afternoon, Dr. Dave. Just anxiously waiting the moment to be with you on this program.
Yes.
And with your special guest, and noticing the subject matter, I can think of no better way to introduce Christ.
Yes, sir.
As to say that he was once a child, and we're up to that time when we think about his birth. But then after that, he made a very important statement. He said, except we become like little children, we cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. That is a big saying and a big challenge.
Yes.
Because children are so precious, they are so innocent, they are so peace and loving, they are ready to be trained and nurtured. And just to believe that he said that is very challenging.
Yes.
But here is the secret. The secret of any one of us becoming like a child is to be connected to Christ by faith.
Yes, sir.
In that way, he makes us a new person. So we have his strength, we have his kindness, we have his love, and we have the characteristics of a child through him. And in that way, he can train us and we can help people. So once again, it's my privilege to recommend Jesus Christ and a faith relationship with him.
Yes.
Which will give us eternal life and success in every area. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much, Dr. McMillan. And just so the audience, persons listening would know I endorse, support, agree with all that is said, as well as I can speak for my co-host, Jackie Gardner, because we recognize the importance of Christ. Outside of him, without him, we can do absolutely nothing. And so before we get our guests, I noticed we have Dr. Murray on. I believe that's Dr. Murray. She wants to share with us for 5 minutes about a very special program coming up. So Dr. Tiora, unmute the mic and tell us about this special program you're inviting persons to be a part of.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I am so glad to be here with you all for the first time this afternoon. And I'm just here on behalf of Sister Marlene McKinney, the health director of Grantstown Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Yes.
Along with the rest of the conference, we're having our Health Emphasis Weekend this coming weekend, December 13th to 15th. So we just wanted to share a bit about that. It's going to start on the 13th. The Friday that night, there's going to be a health talk by Sister Beverly Williams, our own Pastor Williams, his wife. She's going to be emphasizing mental health and wellness and habits that can help us to care for our mental health. And then on the Sabbath morning, there will be 2 services. On the 8 a.m. service, we'll be doing a panel talking about blue zones.
Yes.
You know, a lot of times we like to talk about Loma Linda and how it's known for persons living to be 100 and 100 years plus.
Right.
Right. And we're talking about the habits that led to Loma Linda and other zones being those blue zones where persons live longer and have much lower rates of chronic diseases. And can the Bahamas make that progress and become a blue zone as well? And then 11 a.m., we'll be having our divine service where a health enthusiast, Lady D, also known as Miss Susan Damon, she's
Yes.
flying in and she'll be speaking with us about just health and healthy habits and giving us that charge to protect our health as we're closing the year and going into the new year. And finally, we're going to close out the weekend on Sunday morning at Grantstown in the Annex from 11:30 to 2. We're going to have a brunch and craft, and we're inviting ladies to come out and partake in that. And we're also going to be having health screening there for blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. So yeah, we just wanted to make everyone aware and hope that persons will be able to join us. And if you have any questions or want to register for our Sunday event, you can reach out to myself, Tiora Murray, at 544-1092. 544-1092. That's my phone number. That's it.
Okay, and I want to tell you to type the information in the chat because it will be on Facebook and YouTube for persons who will watch the show later and they still have it. And the number you say is what the number is?
544
Yes.
1092.
Okay, and that's your number. Okay, just in case anybody want to reach out to you, get more information. Thanks very much. I hope you stay on for the rest of the show and participate in the conversation. After all, you are a doctor, so I'm sure you have something to contribute, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, take you all the best.
Yes, you too.
All right. Okay. And so, ladies and gentlemen, today our guest is Siobhan Hollis. She's no stranger to this show. And she brought with her one of her colleagues, attorney Bean Smith. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, tell us a little about themselves, about the child advocacy. I have my co-host, Professor Major. And Professor Major, if you check your phone, I sent you some questions that you may even ask the guests. So Siobhan, once again, welcome back to Transforming Lives.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me on such a wonderful platform to spread awareness, or I should say, update everyone on what's going on in regards to child protection in the Bahamas. So for those who have not seen me or heard about me before, my name is Siobhan Cash Hollis. I am a certified sexual abuse facilitator, and I co-founded Save Our Children Alliance, acronym SOCA, which is an organization focused on adult training in child sexual prevention. I've been around, I should say, or SOCA have been around from about 2020, thereabout. Oftentimes, I had partnered with a Bermudian registered charity called SCARS, And to date, SCARS and Save Our Children Alliance would have trained over 200 Bahamians as stewards of children. So today I have one of my new, I would say, advocates. She's no stranger to nonprofit, but she'll introduce herself and speak a little bit about what she does and what her goals are as being a part of SOCA.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Simone Smith Bean. I am an attorney here in the Bahamas and in Bermuda. I have been a attorney focused on child protection since 2018. My main focus is to assist those children who are the most vulnerable within our community. I started a charity in 2016 called the We Care Project in Bermuda, where we had supported children and their families when they needed the most, with food and supplies that are most needed during the year and over the summer months when the children are usually home by themselves. And so I have been supporting Siobhan in her journey with SOCA. And now that I have come and returned back to the Bahamas, my main focus is to assist those who cannot speak for themselves, those most vulnerable within our community, our children. And so we want to ensure that we have become great advocates in order to speak for them and to be a voice for the voiceless.
Thank you very much. Any Turks Island connection when I hear about that name, Bain? Any Turks Island connection?
Well, I'm married to a Bean. My husband's family is from Bermuda, but he does have a Turks Island connection from many generations before. So he's a Bain family. That is his family in Johnston. It's a Johnston family. And my family comes from the Bahamas, Ragged Island, and Black Point, Exuma. That's where my Smith comes from. And my family are Lockharts from Ragged Island.
Okay, no problem. Thanks. So, Siobhan, we're talking about child abuse today, and my co-host, Dawn, I hope you on. Unmute the mic, Dawn. Say something. Let me know you tune in, Dawn. Professor.
Good afternoon, Dr. Dave. Good afternoon, Bahamas. Good afternoon to your guests. I am tuned in, yes. I'm very interested in your program. I do have a little background going back to the 80s and 90s in child protection, so I'm looking forward to your contribution today.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So I'm gonna ask one or two questions to my guests. I can let them they can alternate or decide how they want to answer it, and then I want you to come in, and I send a list of questions too, and I know you have your own that you can ask. So I want to start out. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start out with one, and maybe you could come with one, and however. We're talking about child protection. So what we want to now, let's start out by explaining what do we mean by child protection, and why is it important in the Bahamas? So I'm going to put that out there to both of you.
Well, child protection means that we are trying to ensure that when children are faced with either being abused, or if they're faced with neglect, or they are faced with many challenges, that they are provided the protections and the oversight of the law. That we do have an act in the Bahamas called the Child Protection Act 2007, which was meant to ensure that it covered all necessary needs for the children. The paramount principle of that act is for the protection of a child. And so at the moment, we have had a number of issues here within the Bahamas of children not being protected, not being kept safe. And unfortunately, we have yet to reach the point where we have been able to address many of these issues, inclusive of the fact that we have a number of children who are missing on our streets on a daily basis. And so with all that has been happening over the past many years, because this is not the beginning, this is just things that become more heightened as a result of social media, we have to be ensuring that our laws are actually adequate enough to ensure that they are able to protect these children and that it covers violence against children as well.
And if I can add to what Mrs. Smith-Bean has said, child protection in one sentence would mean to safeguard children from harm. So whether it's mental, physical, any sort of abuse, neglect, all of that falls under child protection. Exploitation, violence, all of that falls under child protection in the Bahamas. So like with social service, in a sense, that is their mandate, obviously, to protect children and families, but it starts with the home. So the first stewards or guardians of protecting children would be the parents. That's their moral responsibility and all of that, which is to protect their children. Um, and to add with what Simone is saying or have said, is that this is nothing new. I think it's to the point where the village right now is being crumbled, or there's very little village in terms of protecting children. Gone are the days when the neighbors would look out for each other children. I'm not saying that that's the case for all situation, but there's been too much children wandering the streets, being neglected. Um, Too much children, just like everybody's, it's gotten to the point where children don't feel safe.
Yes.
And I can share a short I would say a little short situation with one of my grandniece who is just 8 years old. And to hear the fear in her voice of even coming to the city, she's on the island, and to hear an 8-year-old child saying to a family member that she doesn't feel safe and that she prays that what has happened to the little girl never happens to her. So I asked the question, or I am appealing to the soul of each listener this afternoon. How did we get here in the Bahamas where children are not safe, don't feel safe, feel fearful? They hear the Marco alert going off continuously to their cell phones, and these children are much. I would say they're a bit forward and wise, so they know what's going on to a point. But you
Yes.
hear an 8-year-old child say that she's praying for children and why adults have to hurt children. So that was a recent conversation with an 8-year-old child who happens to be my grandniece. And it really touched me as an advocate and also as a relative, to know that I had to then try to have a conversation with a child and explain to her that there are still good people in the world, but there are people that are not so nice, not so kind, that are in the world as well. So I would appeal to each parent, each guardian, each person listening and viewing this today. Have those uncomfortable conversations with your children. No longer like we say, the boogeyman at the door. The boogeyman is in the house. The boogeyman sometimes comes in the form of relatives, in the form of strangers, in the form of relationships. So it's just so much going on, but we have to have those uncomfortable conversations because they're very sensitive, in a responsible way, age appropriate, with your children. The children of today, they're very wise beyond their age, and they do ask questions. So it's important to have those sort of age appropriate questions and listen to the children. It's just so much that they're taking in. So a lot of children are feeling very fearful. They have cell phones. A lot of the kids have cell phone. Their parents want to be in contact with them. So they do, just like us. They get those Marco alert. And I'm sure the parents would, let them know what that's all about. So you have children that are now afraid. And that cuts to the core and should touch the soul of each and everyone listening here today. That how did our country get to this point where 12-year-old children are not safe, cannot walk the streets, whether we say, well, the parents should have done this or should have done that, but where is the village? That is a question that I have written about. That's the question that the mother of the child recently would have asked. Where is the village? Ask yourself, where is the village? What has happened to the village that we knew when we grew up, the neighbors knowing who our parents was, watching us, looking out for us? Where is that village? That is my question to put forward today.
Okay, Professor Mage, I know you have
Let
your
me jump in here.
questions. Please, guess, go ahead,
Yes.
Professor.
I appreciate the background that was given by both of your guests. I was a teacher at C.C. Sweeting back in 1977 and at the College of Bahamas from 1975. I became acutely aware of the challenges faced by young people, but particularly young children. And one of the things I noticed was that, as you just mentioned, Mrs. Hollers, is that people don't know who their neighbors are. One of the problems is that people don't seem very friendly anymore. I reflect that when I had my young children, I made sure to go next door on the street to get to know my neighbors, know who they were. They knew who I was. The problem is that today, many people are so self-sufficient and they're so suspicious, they don't do that. But as you said, we need a village. How would you suggest, what's a recommendation for parents in particular to look at their neighborhood and to see how they can get that village back together, how they can get that closeness back together, how they can get that network that, for example, if they're not home, where do the children go? Who the children talk to if they see a problem or they feel in danger? How do we rebuild that village? Any suggestions or recommendations on that?
Well, I think that the number one thing has to start right here in your house. We have to let our guard down with not trusting people who are around us and wanting to keep everything to ourselves. I know many of us grew up with knowing that our parents' number one rule was to keep the business that was happening in the house. But we've come to take that 10 steps further than it necessarily needs to go. And so the very first thing that people should do is that when you move into a new neighborhood, whether you live in an apartment complex or you live in your neighborhood, is to knock on the door of your neighbor, because you never know who is living next to you. You never know the circumstances of the person who is living next to you. And if they recognize you, you come home every day and they recognize your children, they would be able to tell you once or twice, or here or there, I saw your daughter, or she left out of the house, or here, or I saw them when they came home. This is how we build in community. We also should be having community reach events throughout the community as a community together, church together, revivals together. These are the type of things that our people need to be able to participate in. We have to stop allowing our personal holdups to get in the way of the development and the benefit of our children and also of our families. This is a problem, and this is something that we can get over. We have to get right back to the core of who we are as a people. Many of us are afraid of the fact that we may have a foreign person living next to us, but that does not take away the moral or the position of family from that person. So whether or not that person who's living next to you is vehement or not, you should be able to knock on their door and say, hey, neighbor, my name is Simone, and here are my children. Are these your children? What are their names? In my neighborhood, I know my neighbor to the left, I know my neighbor to the right, and I know the neighbor who lives behind me. We have an organization within my neighborhood. We have a chat within our neighborhood. When something goes wrong within our neighborhood, we're able to put it in the chat and somebody assists. And so this is something that we need to be able to really push within our society. But the main places that it needs to be pushed is the underskirts of our society, those neighborhoods who are underserved, those neighborhoods who are under the poverty line. Those are the neighborhoods. And you know what? I have to put it on the responsibility of the churches within the neighborhoods as well, because you know exactly who's in your neighborhood if you're doing the outreach, if you're doing God's work, if you're on the streets, if you're reaching out, you know who's living the way that they're living if you're in the outreach. but it has to happen, and it has to be able to take that step, and we have to be able to work together to achieve that one goal.
Very good
If
point.
I can pivot on what Ms. Smith-Bean has said as well, from certified child sexual prevention facilitator. There is a program. There's no need, or I should say, there should not be a void for parents, guardians, and persons that work professionally with children, not knowing about recognizing signs and symptoms of a child that's been disturbed or abused. There's a program called Darkness to Light, and it's a program that teaches adults. It's an adult-focused program that teaches adults or empowers adults how to become what we call stewards of children, meaning protectors of children. So I would say, if you want more information, if you want to be certified, it's a 3-hour training that we do. And we go through everything. When I say we, myself and my partner in Bermuda, Scars, we do the training. So it's a 3-hour training. We ask for just a donation of $20, obviously, and you will be certified as stewards of children. As I would have mentioned when I came on, to this date from 2020, I think 2021, we started the training. We would have trained over 200 adults in recognizing signs and symptoms of children who've been probably, abused sexually, stuff like that. Now, can we stop every child from being abused or harmed or whatnot? No, we can't. However, we need more law-abiding citizens to become bystanders. If you see something, if your gut feeling, like we say sometimes, that gut feeling, not saying that everybody is a predator, not saying that everybody is looking to harm a child, but sometimes it's just a gut feeling that you have, and like we say, education and awareness is important. Knowing, like Ms. Smith-Bean say, knowing your neighbors, knowing your teachers, knowing the Sunday school teachers, because a predator can come in many different forms and means. Can be a parent, as we know, can be a male, can be a female, can be a close relative, can be a friend. So we really don't know. It doesn't have to be some person on the streets. A predator, as we know, can even be in the church. So we have to have those conversations. And what I don't see most times, I don't want to sound that I'm bashing the churches, but we need to have those nights that we have family meetings at churches. We need to have those conversations. We need to have those discussions. We may call them uncomfortable, but we are at that stage right now, or that state in this country, where no longer can we just remain quiet. We cannot. We cannot just depend on a few advocates like us to do the work. We all need to lend our voices to protecting children in this country, whether they are what we call the migrants or whether they are Bahamian children. All children are important, and we need to have those conversations. As she have said, we need to just form a protective, whether it be parental protective, like how we have the neighborhood watch. We need to have the parents and guardian watch, where we watch each other children. If a child is at a function, maybe attending something late, why cannot we form a relationship with that parent and let them know that, okay, is it okay for me to drop your child home or whatnot? We have to be our brothers and sisters keepers. And we don't have to have a child to protect children. It calls on the moral fiber of you as an individual and of this country. We have since, just as we got much wealthier, as we get the bigger cars and the nice homes and whatnot, we have become a selfish society. As long as me and my kids are protected. Well, whether you're in, as we have seen stories and heard of situations, whether you feel you're in a gated community or whatnot, your child is exposed, because we don't know who child can be the next. We don't want it to happen, but we have to continuously create awareness. And this is not a scare tactic by any means necessary, but I think we have to continue to have those conversations to appeal to our lawmakers that even the Child Protection Act needs to be beefed up and changed. We have to create a society where there's zero tolerance for anyone who harm a child. It's that simple.
Question for you and a recommendation. I can feel your passion, I can sense your passion, both of you ladies. Now, here's the thing. The incident that happened about 2 weeks ago with that 12-year-old child, that has roused the ire of the nation. So I think that can be a launch pad for you ladies to take off this thing. So now, my philosophy, I believe, is this. As you said, there should be at least one in every church, in every school, every neighborhood. So have you been making this presentation to the churches, to the schools, to Rotary, to Kiwanis, and those other kind of organizations, expressing this very, very same thing and talking about organizing, just as you organize Neighborhood Watch. I've been a part of Neighborhood Watch for many years, helping to organize and set them up and run it as well. So when I lived in Tallahassee, Florida, we had something called the Child Patrol. As I said to you, I've been doing this thing for a number of years. I got interested in this way back in the 1980s with my youngest child. We lived in the US. At that time, there was a lot of problems going on. And so out of that came a number of things, the gadgets where you have cameras in your house to protect yourself in case the babysitter is molesting or hurting the child or the elder care. We recommended that every house should have cameras or baby cams, etc., those kind of things. So how are you going to organize to go into the churches? If you have been, maybe right now it's time to strike while the iron is hot. And so how can you propose? Are you proposing to get into the churches, to get into the schools, to get into the organizations such as Rotary? I mean, there are people that need presentations all the time. I'm sure you can get in there somehow, some way.
If I may, that's a very good question. And just to answer your question, I have back in I think it's 2020, I would have been commissioned by the Department of, I think, Gender and Family Affairs. We would have trained some of those employees with the child sexual prevention training. So they've asked me at that time to write a proposal on how we were going to possibly bring this particular program or similar that is to the Bahamas. We had done that. We have had many conversations. As part of the training, we have trained many civic organizations. We have trained persons who are clergy in the church. We have trained police officers. We have trained teachers. We have had a variety of professionals that we would have trained, healthcare, you name it, social service workers. I feel, and I'm going to be honest, I feel that in a sense, child protection in the Bahamas is not taken seriously. I have been SOCA, Save Our Children Alliance, even with some survivors of child sexual abuse who are part of this organization. We have been talking, we have been protesting, we have been reaching out, and like I said, maybe it's a lot of people doing the same thing in terms of NGO, but I think that there's never enough persons that can come around the table and speak about child sexual abuse. Now, one of my challenges would have been, at the time, I lived in Bermuda. I was more, stationed in Bermuda. I myself lived in Bermuda. So I wouldn't say very little, but there was a challenge in terms of what I can do from where I was. So what I did, I took my pen to paper. So I would write to the editor frequently about ways, about the trainings, about the create awareness, a sense of awareness about child sexual abuse. So I've done that for the past 4 or 5 years. I've been doing that, writing to all of the newspapers and doing what I can do within my remit. Now, you asked a good question, Professor Major. Have I spoken to Rotary? I haven't spoken to any Rotary or whatnot, but I will appeal to anyone who may be listening from any of those organizations that feel free. I've put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy, myself and Miss Smith Bean. We can come in and provide a presentation on how we can use the assistance of various entities and organizations to try to help or educate or create awareness within the communities, whether it's Baintown, whether it's, Lyford Key, however it is. We are more than happy to put together even a training. So if you are a professional, if you would like your adult family to be trained, that training is an eye opener. I must say, when I did the training, that's why I encourage each and every one to take up that training, because that sincerely is an eye opener. And it's a lot of things that we as a society and as a culture take for granted, but it basically create that sort of light, or pull on that light or turn on that switch that says, okay, some things we have to look at it from a different lens. We have to question certain things, and it really, really create that sort of passion to fight for children. But like I said, how did we get here? It didn't happen overnight. If we talk about incest, molestation, you name it, it goes way back. I have interviewed during the pandemic. That's how I started before I even took the training. I interviewed persons, Bahamian, that is, from where I was. I interviewed survivors. They call themselves survivors of child sexual abuse. And it was just so much. I didn't realize, I guess, I was kind of blinded too. I didn't realize how many persons, now adults, are still struggling, are still having challenges, are still going and experiencing those traumatic feelings of what took place when they were a child. So this is something that it never goes away, but we just have to be aware of it. We may not be able to protect every child there is, but I think through education and awareness, we can mitigate a lot of the abuses and potential harm to children.
Are you open for presentations on radio and other places?
Absolutely. And just to back up Ms. Hollis's points, it's going to be very important for us as far as the program and our presentations to stress the need for these organizations to create those safe spaces. The reason why we are not able to have more persons come forward is because they do not feel safe enough to bring the person who has been abusing them or to bring to light the things that they may have been experiencing, because many people try to suppress this. Many people try to forget it. And the thing about it is if we don't bring it to the light, if we don't address the issues, if we don't hear from the children's mouths, or provide those safe spaces for them to come in and say, this is what I've been experiencing, or this is what I've been going through, or here are my struggles. It can even be as little as my parents leave me home by myself all the time. Okay, I am 12 and I have to take care of 6 of my brothers and sisters, which happens every day because parents have to work, but they need to be able to have that express time for them to say, here are my struggles, here's what I'm going through, I need help. And so with the programs that we're looking at, the training is really for us to have adults understand what people have been experiencing and the challenges that people had when they were abused, and understand how to recognize the signs of somebody being abused. But in addition to that, our promotion has to be in every one of these organizations for them to ensure that a safe space is provided, whether it's once a month, whether it's once a quarter, where children can come in, say what's going on within their community and express themselves so things can be addressed before it's too late. Because I want to tell you, hurt people hurt people. And we have become a society of many hurt people who continue to hurt people. And if we don't address these things now, we are going to continue to churn out more damaged individuals than we can't count and manage. And that is not something best for our society if we want to grow and develop as a nation.
Ladies, pardon me for jumping in again, but you've mentioned that you've trained lots of people here already. One thing I'd like to know is, are they connected? Do you have chapters? Do you have meetings with these people? Do they go on speaking engagements? Do they share? How are they connected? Are they just trained and just left by themselves, or do you have some kind of organization that pulls them together on a periodic basis to say, what are we doing? How are we helping? How are we sharing? How are we enlightening people? How are we educating people?
That's a very good question. And to answer your question in terms of how am I following up? Well, those are individuals of which once we have done the training, I even appeal to them, not once, not twice, several times. Pay it forward. Perhaps pay or donate the $20 so that an underprivileged parent or guardian can get the training. Did it happen? No, it did not. So I myself was a bit taken aback because everybody, enjoyed the training, learned a lot, spoke about how well and how eye-opening it was. However, it goes back to what I said. I think for the most part, we have changed as a society. As long as we know something, as long as we get the information, we couldn't care about what the neighbor does or what happened there. But we are slowly recognizing it, or we have to face reality is that today for me, tomorrow can be for you. Not even tomorrow, this evening can be for you. So I would have appealed to the same individuals, those 200 plus, that pay it forward. You would have been trained. Pay for another person who perhaps cannot find the $20 to donate to put on the training. Some of them are still a part of Save Our Children Alliance, and they're still advocating out there, as well as a lot of the NGOs we would have trained as well. A lot of the grassroots from Crisis Center, some of their team. We have trained quite a bit of persons. But another challenge there is, if I can say it, I'm going to say this nicely, is that a lot of times us as NGOs and aspiring NGOs and grassroots NGOs, we tend to work in silos in this country. And that is a struggle because I think strength comes in numbers. But a lot of times we have persons who, for whatever reason or means, I guess they want to do things on their own. Save Our Children Alliance is committed to working with other NGOs, training them so that they can help whatever I would say objectives or whatever their missions are in terms of protecting children. There are a lot of NGOs out there that focus on child protection. My core mandate is that this child protection training, Darkness to Light, becomes a mandatory training for all individuals, professional or not, that deals with children. I would go back to Bermuda. From me being in Bermuda over 11, 12 years ago, and I would say living in Bermuda, that is mandatory. My partner, Scars, Debbie Ray Rivers, she has done a remarkable job in terms of creating community awareness. And she was able to, during her tenure and still, to get the government to make this particular training, child sexual abuse prevention, mandatory. So whether you have a camp, whether you're a teacher, a police officer, a magistrate, you name it, you have to. It's a must. It's mandatory that you take this training. That is where I would love to see the Bahamas go. That every adult that deals with children directly, and you don't have to deal with children directly, but for the most part, the professionals and persons, Sunday school teacher, the babysitter, you name it, that you are trained, the coach, you name it, that you are trained in child sexual prevention. Education is key. Awareness is key. We can't no longer just, expect for some parents to know or expect that, okay, this is the Bahamas and we know each other and okay, that kind of thing doesn't happen. I remember years ago, you would hear about, kids being kind of missing from the U.S. standpoint. I said those things always happen there. However, when the U.S. sneeze, or I wouldn't say just the U.S., but when other countries sneeze, it seems like we get the cold too. So we are no longer just, the beautiful island of the Bahamas. We have a serious rape culture in this country. We have a serious predatory demonic spirit in this country. And we have to tighten our laws. We have to straighten our laws, I should say. And we do have to revise the Child Protection Act and ensure that, like Ms. Smith-Bean says, it's a lot you can learn from just listening to children. As an adult, I know when we were younger, we said, well, okay, when grown-ups talk, you just, no. You want the children to be able to tell you when they feel uncomfortable, when they feel, if they feel that they're being bullied. You want to have those conversations with your kids. And not only adult molest or rape kids. It's older children. And I've heard of a recent story at a school, a alleged story of a young child being sodomized or whatever by his peers. So that is deeply disturbing, and it's so hard. It's so hard. It's gut-wrenching and so hard that this is happening in our beloved Bahama Islands, in the Bahamas. No, it's not only in the U.S. It's happening in the Bahamas. And we can no longer turn a blind, like we say, a blind eye or a deaf ear to this. We all have to get angry enough without, doing anything illegal, but we have to get passionate enough and just angry enough where we all can go and speak with our legislators, speak with, the powers that be, that we really need to have a zero tolerance, not no tolerance. We need to have a zero tolerance for anyone who think and who act on harming a child in this country. That's where we are at this moment.
You said the program is 3 hours long and it's for $20. Is it virtual or do you have to do it in person?
It's virtual, and it's just an in-kind donation. Yes, it's virtual, completely virtual.
So you can train virtually?
Yes, we can train, and we normally train about 30 to maybe 50 the most, but we normally keep it 30 because it's an interactive training. So after the training, we do have conversations, and it's adult-based training because we, as the adults, it's our moral obligation, responsibility to protect children.
Do you have some flyers or some video announcements that you can share with me so I can share with other people? I have some contacts that I want to get to you because I believe they will use these programs, and they can use these programs because they are very serious about child protection.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I can write my email. You can email me. I don't know if I put it in there. I've written my email. Yes, my email is saveourchildrenalliance@gmail.com. So send me your request, and I will be more than happy to send you information.
Give it to Dr. Dave for me.
Okay.
I'm not just getting notes right now.
Yeah,
but,
no problem.
I believe that, do you have, for example, Zoom meetings with any of the people that you're training in the past?
I haven't had it lately. I'm gonna be honest. I've had it, I think maybe a year ago. But as you know, there's other things I do outside of the child advocacy. But no, I haven't had any lately. I like I said, I just write consistently. You can find my writing in the Guardian, Tribune, all of that. I would have had my latest article was in Nassau Guardian called "How Did We Get Here?" So that's December the 6th. So like I said, I put pen to paper. Thank you, Ms. Smith, for putting it in the group. So if anyone wants to reach out to me for training, a group training, an individual training, I will be more than happy to share the information on how we can sign you up and get you trained in child sexual prevention.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds like you need a secretariat.
Yes. What I want to do too, because we only have a few minutes on the air, but let me open it up for somebody who want to participate or comment. I only get about 2 or 3 minutes, or maybe just ask a quick question before we sign off on the radio, but we'll be back. We'll still remain online for another 15 minutes. Anybody quickly want to give a comment or ask a question while we live on the radio? Go ahead.
Hi, Jackie Gardner here. Of course,
Go ahead, Jackie.
Hi, I'm out in the open, but I could not resist the opportunity to key up on a very relevant subject. We have two powerhouse ladies in the house. I want to say kudos to both of you for the wonderful, productive work that you do with respect to our children. It's a much needed work, and I know sometimes it can be a thankless work. But I just, on behalf of the entire Bahamas, I want to say thank you so very much for your contributions. That's about it. I'm in the open listening, but in an open environment. So I wanted to just get on there and note my thanks.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dr. Dave and Professor. How you all doing? Mark Turnquist.
Mark. Good evening.
Yeah, man, it was such a nice, man, excellent topic, excellent conversation, excellent presenters, man. I really, Dave, I'm going to want to get the information of the program from you also. I'll keep in touch and email it to me.
Okay, no problem. I'll send you.
Dr. Dave.
Go ahead.
This gentleman here is the one I was talking to you about, Mark Turnquist, about having a program on small business. This gentleman right here.
No,
I know him very well.
I'm familiar with Mark. That's the one who got me started when I opened up my restaurant. That was the man behind it.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, what I want to do, Siobhan and Miss Payne, maybe you might want to just share a couple final, just a minute or two, just on the radio. We can sign off for 5, but we could remain online for another 10, 15 minutes in case persons might want to ask questions off air. So share with us your closing comments, please.
Well, one thing I want to let the Bahamas know is that Siobhan and I are very dedicated to ensuring that we are able to bring this message everywhere. We want to ensure that we don't have another incident that happened to Adrio. We don't want another child to have to experience something like this. This went very, very deep to many people, hurt many people when they heard about this incident and found out what had happened to this child. This is not the first child that this has happened to. There are many other children who we need to remember their names and ensure that they are protected. But there are some organizations out in the community at the moment, like One Touch Security Bahamas, who is trying to provide technologies to assist families in order for you to be able to find your children when necessary, for you to be able to put your finger on your children when unnecessary, or any one of your loved ones who are vulnerable. So remember, if you want to know more about the training or you want to know more about how you can protect your family, you can always email saveourchildrenalliance@gmail.com. And you can reach out to us. We're more than happy to come to speak to any organization to talk about why it's important for us to be able to provide those safe spaces and to ensure that each and every person in your organization is trained under the auspices organization of Save Our Children Alliance, and to ensure that you know how to look out for the signs of abuse. SOCA is here to assist with that, and we want to ensure that you know that if you need to reach out to us, we are here and available to help.
Thank you, Siobhan. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Miss Smith-Bean. I guess she said what I was about to say. So any organization, any individual, whether you want to do it as a family, adults only, as we have said, we are here to assist. There's many information that we can share. And also we have brochures for the children, body safety, no touch zones. So it's a lot of things that we want to do, but let's be quite clear and frank. Everything revolves around having the funding and the resources to make it happen. So anyone who's listening on this program who knows someone that knows someone who wants to assist in us getting this to the out islands, the remote islands, we want to be able to go and train a few adults on each island. That's actually was a goal of mine from I started this advocacy in 2020. I know we had the pandemic, which had us locked down, and we had to go to Zoom, resort to Zoom, but we want to be able to go out there and train adults in each island, on each island. If we could do that, that would help, because we can hold them as the person of contact who we can train, get them certified, and they can then become the community advocates and train persons on those remote islands. So it's a lot of work that can be done. It's a lot of ideas that we have and we want to share. Simone and I both lived in Bermuda back and forth. So we're here to stay. We want to help our country, and we want to bring the level of expertise, the knowledge, the commitment, and the passion to the Bahamas so that we can help ourselves. We can help those that are silent, those who are afraid to speak up. We can help. We can help. And this program really, really helps. Education is the key. It helps so much. But we are appealing to you. Please help us to help our community and our country. Thank you.
Thank you very, very, very much on behalf of myself, Jackie Gardner, Professor Don Major, who always sitting in the absence of myself and Jackie Gardner. You've been listening to this program, Transforming Lives, on Global 99.5. And we here every Sunday, 4 to 5. We also on Cable TV 974. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on Zoom. And so we invite you to join us next Sunday. And then the following Sunday, we will be talking with some of the winners of the Miss Galaxy pageant. I got an opportunity to attend that pageant. And we'll be talking with the newly crowned Miss Galaxy, Junior and Little Miss and all of that. That'll be on the 22nd. That'll be your gift for Christmas. You've been listening to the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974, Facebook, YouTube, Zoom. Let's Talk Business with Kareem Hanchel. Coming on next, we're inviting you to tune in, stay tuned. Have a wonderful afternoon.